a little bit of history on the bass, just to get us started. The bass was kind of developed in the early 1930s. I think a bass came out that was designed on an electric guitar rather than the standard upright double bass that people used to play. A guy in Seattle developed this bass around about the 1930s. It didn't really do that well until Leo Fender designed the Fender Precision. And since that point in the 60s or late 50s and very, very early 60s, that point, the bass design hasn't really changed much. All of the basses you see hanging on the walls all have the same basic design taken from the Fender design, really. And that just goes to show, as far as a design classic is concerned, something that can just stay the test of time. And the Fender Precision has done that and just laid the foundation for everything bass-wise. Let's just have a quick look at the basses. So if you've got your bass out and you're wondering what all these bits are, let's just go through them really simply. What we have is a standard 4-string bass here. Again, this has 2 pickups on it. It's on a jazz-style bass. This is the Fender developed a bass a little later on called the Jazz Bass, which came after Precision, which had these 2 Fender-style jazz bass pickups on. The body is kind of a slab body, same affair as it's always been, solid. The neck with the frets. This one hasn't actually got dot markers on the necks, but my other basses have, so we'll work from them for the rest of the DVD. Basically, the strings run up to the tuning pegs up here. One for each string, obviously. And at the other end, we have the bridge. Now, this bridge, the strings disappear into the body of the bass, and then they actually come out the other side. This kind of, for this style of bass, it transmits the vibrations of the string straight through to the body, a little bit clearer, apparently. So this seems to work quite well. Pickup-wise, normally the configuration of knobs is very, very simple. We have, on this bass, we have a volume for the front pickup, a volume for the back pickup, and then tone. Again, this is the kind of Fender style layout for the jazz bass, which was exactly the same. Then, really, the main factors to take into account when you're actually looking at an instrument is whether or not you want to play a 4, maybe even a 5-string bass, whether you want a fretless bass. A fretless is a bass without any of the frets in, and it tends to have a much more kind of a whining sound to it, warm. The strings are pushed straight down onto the fretboard, so it's a much warmer bass sound. There are a lot of different people who play fretless worth checking out. People like Jaco Pastorius and Pino Palladino. And you'll see what I mean. You need to really hear that style of bass playing to appreciate what it sounds like, and it's a lovely style. Now, there are a lot of different styles we're going to look at bass playing wise. I'll show you a few of these styles in a minute. The main thing really for you guys to get together with is just to get the bass out, put it on your knee, sit down with it, and just really, if you need a little practice amp, if you've got one, just plug it in and just turn the bass up and just get used to sitting with the bass and holding it. You shouldn't sit too far back in your seat when you're actually playing the bass. You lean forward a little bit off the edge of the seat and put the bass onto one knee. Also, when you're holding the bass neck, you want to create this kind of triangle between the bass neck and your body. Can you see this triangle in here? And this is quite important. You need to give yourself some space when you're actually fretting the neck. You don't want, I've seen some players who, when they're starting out, they tend to pull the bass back into their body, and their arm kind of is either resting on their knee or it's coming out of their body from this point, and that doesn't work at all. You want to get this triangle sorted. So when you sit there with the bass, get it in a good position and look for this triangle that exists here, yeah? And then a good way of getting your left hand into the right position for playing is actually, once you get this triangle, is to drop the bass forward onto your lap, like this. So it's just laying flat on your lap. And with your left hand, I'm just supporting the neck with my left hand. You put your thumb into the middle of the neck, right here. So effectively, you're just holding the bass, like this. Now, then tip the bass back up, and it becomes really awkward, because it does feel awkward. And this is the kind of approach you need to be looking at. There is a slight angle on your arm here, but this is where you need to look to effectively play the bass correctly. You want to create enough space between your hand here and the fretboard. The minute your thumb comes round, like this, it does actually make it quite technically difficult to play your F at the bottom here. There is a style of bass playing called the baseball grip, which is this, where you're bringing your thumb round to the outside edge. You can use that once you've got a decent kind of style going with your left hand. So don't worry about. I don't really want you to start sticking your thumb around the outside edge of the bass. It just steals from your hand on this side. So as I say, recap on that. You're just sticking it on your lap, holding the bass, put it roughly in the middle of the neck, and tip the bass back up again. So again, it will feel awkward, but it's a good starting block. Okay. And for your right hand, I want you to anchor either on the pickup with your thumb or on the string with your thumb. Now, again, the tendency with that, it does feel slightly weird when you're starting this. I mean, the tendency with a lot of bass players is not to anchor, when you're starting, is not to anchor at all, like kind of hooking your thumb around here and just not to anchor anywhere on the bass, but you do need a good anchor point. So it's either going to be on your pickup or on your E string, depending on where you're playing. And once you've got these basic principles together, you're going to kind of be in the right position to start playing. Okay, let's have a look at what all the bits do, basically. What have we got on this bass? Now this is based more upon the jazz bass style. We've got 2 single coil pickups on it. The one next to the bridge makes for a kind of tighter, more top-endy sound. The strings are slightly tighter as they get closer to the bridge. More tension, basically, nearer the bridge. This pickup's a slightly warmer one. They're both the same, effectively where they are placed changes the sound. So this pickup is a slightly warmer bass pickup. The arrangement of pots here, or these knobs, is volume for the front, volume for the back, and then a tone pot. So these are very, very simple setups, which is really a useful thing to have on your first bass. Just have it very simple. You don't want to have masses of variation, because often you can never find a sound. To have the bass just turned up, virtually everything turned up full, it sounds good. If you're using a precision bass, you'll just have 2 pots. It'll just be volume and tone. So you have one pickup, as if you had one pickup in the middle here, it'll just be volume and tone. And that's as simple as that. Fiddle around with these. There's quite a lot of variation just in volume and tone, especially as to where you play the bass with your hands. It tends to get warmer towards the neck, and it tends to get brighter towards the back, towards the pickup, towards the actual bridge. Now this is called the bridge. The strings often pass over the back of this and then are anchored at the far end here. On this particular model, the actual strings go right through the body and come out the back. So you feed them through here when you're actually restringing. The reason they go through the body on this one is just a design thing, really. On this design bass, Yamaha seem to think that you get more resonance through the body of the bass by passing the string through the body. So again, with the precision, it'll load in from the back, and you can make your own decision on sound. Right, frets. These are your frets. There's about 20 or so of them. It varies on bass to bass. What you've actually got is each of these frets signifies a semitone or basically just a note. But each note is a semitone away. It's like on a piano keyboard. As each note goes up on a piano keyboard, each note next to each other note. This is where you generate the sound by pressing your string down at this end with your finger, and this is the hand that plucks the note. I know these are very obvious things, but useful to know if you're really starting out. Often with basses, there are dot markers on the neck. Just so happens that on this bass, there's none on this neck. They all run down the side for me, so I can see them on the side here. On normal basses, well, most basses you take off the wall, you've got these block markers on the basses, same with here, or the little dot markers here. And it helps to basically to find out where you are on the bass. It gives you a good visual representation of where you are on the bass. As we move further up, we come to the nut. This piece, the strings pass over just after they come off of the machine head, is called the nut. They pass over this, and then they split out to each machine head for tuning. Yeah. A little tip: if you are first playing bass and you do decide to restring your bass, make sure that when you are restringing them, that you bring the strings down the inside. Don't pass them around the outside. I've seen people do that. So the string comes from the outside in. They always come up the fretboard and cross anti-clockwise around the peg head, generally. There are variations on this. So these two bottom strings do the anti-clockwise pass. On this one, the other way goes clockwise on the two here. So you're passing the strings down. This then makes the tension on the nut correct, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Machine heads, as I say, are fairly sensitive things. If you have got your bass in a hard case, you're going to find it's a lot less likely to change its tuning unless you put it into a very cold environment to a very hot environment. So if you have a soft case, or you happen to leave them, so you tune the bass and leave it in a corner, these are very sensitive to movement, so you may well pick it up and it's horribly out of tune. We will look at how to tune your basses, but having a good hard case is going to make a big difference. The bodies of most basses, the most popular body woods are alder for the body, maple for the neck, and rosewood fingerboards. That's often the way it is. Those basses sound, that's kind of the standard woods. Again, lots of different variations on that. So let's look at basically getting to grips with playing this instrument, yeah? So you've never played an instrument before, you've never played the bass before. Let's take it as if you've just picked up the bass and you put it on your knee. So the first things you're going to do is you're going to pick the bass up, put it on either your left or your right knee. I tend to like to have it on my right leg here. Then, a good start to this is to just tip the bass forward on your leg, so it's face down with its strings, and you're looking at the back of the bass. And we're going to have a look at this left hand and getting your left hand in the right position to actually play the bass. So what we got is we grip the bass here with this hand. So I've got my thumb right in the middle of the neck, and my fingers are kind of just holding the bass like I would hold the corner of a table. And then I'm going to tip the bass back round again. And that kind of gives us the right approach. It feels really awkward. It does feel awkward. It will feel very awkward to you. You need to kind of just get this angle about right for your arm. Obviously playing F, the bottom note right down in the corner there, is quite a tricky one when you're first starting. So once you've got into this position, you try and spread your fingers out a little bit. That's roughly the right position for your left hand. It does get easier as you move up the neck, but ideally I want you to keep your thumb behind the fretboard. There are a few different ways of playing the bass, so once you've got mastered this style of bass playing, there is something called a baseball grip, where you bring your thumb round to the outside, and you can play like this. But at these early stages of the game, as long as you can keep your thumb behind the neck, it creates a fair amount of space here for your fingers. So you've got a little bit of space here. As soon as you start showing your thumb around the corner, it steals from your hand and pulls your hand away. So this is a good position. So that's left hand just for the minute before we play anything. Let's look at the right hand. The right hand's going to need a good anchor point. Now when I say anchor point, your thumb is where you're going to anchor your hand. Now it's either going to be on your pickup or on your E string. Now your open strings on the bass, just to cover that, are E for the lowest string, fattest string, one nearest you. A is the next string, D and G. And in a minute we'll just tune and check those. We'll do that in the next bit, but before that you're going to anchor your thumb on the pickup, and you're going to, when you're not playing the E string, so while you're playing the E string, your thumb tends to be on the pickup. When you aren't playing the E string, I want you to anchor your thumb on the E string, okay, when you're playing the other strings. And that can apply to the back pickup as well. So you've got the two anchor points there. If you have a back pickup, you might just have a front pickup. Anchor points here, and also if you want a really warm tone, you can do it on the side of the neck here. So you can use these anchor points, but you are virtually on the bottom E string anyway at that point. But you can use the corner of the bass here. On some early basses, like some of the early Fender Precision basses, they have thumb grips. And the really early ones, they used to have a grip here, which was for the original old style of bass playing, where you would use your thumb to play the bass, and you'd hold on to the grip here and then use your thumb to fret the notes, and that's considered a very, very, very old way of playing the bass now, and it's not very technique efficient. And I have known people to take this little thumb grip here off the original basses and stick it up here so you can use it as an anchor for your thumb. But anyway, if you're lucky enough to have one of those basses and it's an original, well, you've got a very expensive instrument on your hands, so hold on to it. So we've got both ends sorted, basically left hand, right hand. So you've got your thumb anchored either on the pickup, and you've got this left hand looking reasonably good. Okay, that's a good start. The next part we're going to look at is really your posture, okay? And that's so important to the way you approach the bass. I mean, these are early stage things that you need to get to grips with before we even start playing. So they are very important. So what we've got is we've got this triangle that exists here between my left arm here that comes in. There's a kind of triangle section in here. Now this is what you want to try and achieve. You want to try and get this triangle primarily because it gives you the right amount of space, and it will tend to get the bass in the right position for you to play. Because there's often the tendency for players to lean back and have their arm coming out of their arm, kind of side of their body, or it coming off of their legs. Doesn't work. You've got to give ergonomically, you've got to get into the right position to play the bass. Once you're in the right position, it'll all come a lot easier. So what we're going to do as well is look at whereabouts I want to put the bass in terms of where it comes to on my body. And this is very important when we come to standing up with the bass. So what I'm doing here, as I'm sat down, I'm looking at where the bass occurs on my body, roughly, when I'm playing here, yeah? So I've got this triangle here, got my hands anchored. Now, looking at this, I want to kind of recreate that when I'm standing up, okay? So let's just try and do that. So I'll use this bass here. So I'm going to put my strap on. And my strap is kind of pulled tight over my shoulders here. And this is where the bass feels right for me. Now I'm going to stand up, and I really want the bass to be roughly, it's not exactly, but roughly the same position when I'm standing up. Now this is a good thing for you to do, so you can get the strap length right. So now if you look, when I stand up, the actual bass hasn't effectively changed in terms of where it is on my body. This is great then. So when you're actually practicing, the bass is always going to be in the same position on your body. Now, if you're one of these players who has your bass round your knees, it looks great in videos, and it does look great. It's very rock and roll. The further down you have your bass, the more of an angle you're going to create on your arm at this end, okay? Which does, if you are going to play for a long time, will take its toll on your wrists at this end. Alternatively, if you have the bass too high and you're going back to the 80s, you will then create an angle on your right hand, on your wrist here. And all the tendons move over your wrists here. And if you do a lot of playing, you will create problems for yourself on both ends. So you do need to find a happy medium if you want to take this as a long-term thing. Happy medium to getting a good technique, so you don't create too much angle on your right hand or too much angle on your left hand. So this seems to work roughly for me, and hopefully it'll work for you at home. Good. So we've got past the point of sitting and getting our hands in the right place. We've looked at what all the bits on the bass tend to do. Now, as you can see, it's a slightly more complicated bass. This is the precision pickup that I was talking about. Some basses just have this precision pickup, and this is a jazz pickup on the back. Work out what all of your knobs do by actually looking in the gump that you got given with your guitar. And experiment with it. Again, I've got the block markers on this bass, and this is the one we'll use to look at the playing side of the bass. Okay, which is what we're going to do now.